rise and please pledge the flag.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'm going to call this meeting to order and ask that we have a motion to open the public hearing on jail tax.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second to open the public hearing. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion passed 6-0. Okay, I want to make a statement before, I'm going to stand up because my voice doesn't project as well as some other people. I wanted to remind you all that we are here this evening. We're not here, first of all, to determine a plan for building a new or remodeling a current jail. We are here to determine a plan for how to raise and save money to prepare for any kind of a jail project that we would have in the future. And that is the purpose of our ordinance that we passed at the last meeting that we had on this subject. The council wants to make the best decision that we can with the least amount of cost to all of you, the taxpayers, and all taxpayers of Carroll County with the maximum amount of result. So that is the reason for the ordinance, and I just wanted to give a little bit of explanation as to why this has become necessary for those who aren't aware. Carroll County is currently not passing our jail inspections, and that can only go on so long before federal, where a judge steps in and says that they're going to go to jail for us, and they're going to tell us how much to spend. So where we are right now, we haven't passed. They've already warned us by letter that we have to make some decisions, and it is happening in other counties. This same thing has happened, and at least one right now it's going on. And if we continue to procrastinate and do clerically sign anyways, if we procrastinate and do nothing, then we're going to be told what to do. So while we have that choice, we want to exercise that. And we have to show that we have a plan in place and that we're moving forward. It can take 2 or 3 years to complete a jail project, and that means a remodel or a new build. That decision has not been made yet by the commissioners. And we have 2 ways that we can cover the costs. And one of the ways in the ordinance that we have proposed is to adopt a local income tax for a special public jail tax. That is at a rate of 0.2000% that lasts over, Bill, please sign in, over 20 years. And that special tax can be used to build or to remodel. That rate will raise $725,000 each year. It will allow us to have an excess of $2 million at the end of that 3 years. Money that can go towards the project, whatever it may be, and that will save us interest in the long run, because that's where our costs are going to be. If you buy a house, you know, on time, you have to pay interest, and it more than doubles the amount you pay. So that will happen with our jail too. So the purpose is to accumulate enough money ahead of time to pay down what it's going to cost for any project that we would assume. We have a jail capital fund right now that we've established. We've moved money out of the rainy day into that, and by the end of this year, if things go the way we had planned, we will have $2 billion in that. So that means at the end of the 3 years, we can have $4 million to pay on this project. The other option is property tax. No one wants higher property taxes. If you use property tax, you cannot implement that tax until the project is finished. That means you're not saving any time. You're not going to have that money to pay down. You're going to have to bond all that money. You're going to be paying interest. And it is just going to raise the cost of your project. So, starting in 2019, we could have a new tax to start saving towards something we know that we have to do. The problem has been created by the state of Indiana forcing the counties to keep their level 6 felons in local jails. We can't do anything about that either. That's not going to change. If anything, it's going to get more so. So we have to act. The problem isn't going away. Other counties are faced with the same dilemma. I received an email from someone suggesting we put people, that our problem was from mentally ill people being in our jails, and that we needed to send them to the state hospital, which is closed at Logansport. Well, that is not in the realm of possibilities. You have to have legislation to do something like that. And you all know that it takes years to get legislation done. So that's not something that we have an option to do. Not right now. So y'all get busy on that, and then maybe we can have new laws. And then the other issue with all of this is that the programs, it has been suggested that we have programs to rehab the people or to have the work release program. All those things are good. We need to do those things. But you're still going to have, those people have to go back to jail if they break their probation. And so you still have to have somewhere to put them. I know yesterday we had 60 people in the jail, and we have 34, 36 capacity. And that's been, because years ago I served on the merit board, and then, that's been 16, 18 years ago, and then we've had people, we had numbers in the 50s. So this is going on for years. It's not going to change, so we have to deal with it. So tonight we are here, as I said, to look at a tax to save money. I wanted to have a few people speak before we start the public input. I'm going to Sheriff Lesenby and Judge Phelps, and I'm not sure if the prosecutor is here.
He is not, ma'am, but he sent me a couple words he wanted me to say on his behalf.
Okay, we can do that. I want to ask that everybody, when they do speak, they speak and they deliver their message in a respectful manner, and that each of you limit your speaking time to 3 minutes, and that's so everybody has time to speak, and we aren't here all night. I think that we can all get our points across. So with that, I would like to ask Sheriff Lesenby to speak, please.
Sure. I have a few bullet points that I just wanted to express, and the majority of this is to dispel any rumors or myths or any thoughts that anyone has regarding our current jail situation. First of all, start out that our current facility opened in 1983. Back then, I know that we averaged anywhere from 8 to 10 inmates. Today, as I speak, we have 64 inmates in our 34 maximum capacity facility. 64. That's always obviously a fluid number every day, changes every day, but here recently we've been averaging anywhere from 50 into the 60s. County jails are unlike any other facility in the county. They're continuous 24/7, 365 usage. So they have wear and tear on them unlike any other building in the county. As Chair Brown alluded to, and I'll say it openly, this is, in my opinion, the fault of the state. I put a lot of my opinion on that, particularly with House Bill 1006, and many sheriffs throughout the state of Indiana would echo the same thing I'm saying. House Bill 1006 basically began in 2014. It's now coming to the point where it's, in essence, caught up with us. And that, there's a lot of wording to 1006. But basically what it said was that lower level felons or level 6 felons would be housed in local county jails rather than in state Department of Corrections prisons. My current numbers from the Indiana Sheriff's Association indicate that 54 of the 92 counties in the state of Indiana are either talking or looking at doing something with their county jails. One other thing that I would bring back to the building aspect as far as the continuous usage, one of the issues we're running into is finding replacement parts for our current facility. It's 35 years old, and so many of the vendors that we dealt with back then are either out of business. What we're doing now in some aspects is, in essence, reinventing the wheel, if you will, and trying to overcome some of that aspect. And when I refer to that, I'm talking particularly about the HVAC system. We recently had to spend roughly $3,500 to upgrade some of our air conditioning, and and plumbing continues to be an issue as we go along. One thing to consider also as we go along is the risk liability involved with continuing as we are. The question is going to boil down to whether or not any insurance companies will actually cover the county, and that could become a serious liability as it relates to any incidents that may occur in the jail. Class action lawsuits are unfortunately, Vigo County and Terre Haute is currently under a federal mandate by a federal judge to build a new county jail down there. The federal judge found that their jail was unconstitutional and ordered that they build a new county jail down there. And my understanding in education as it relates to a federal mandate is that the federal court will, in essence, order how big that jail will be. Not necessarily where we put it, but they would mandate basically everything except for writing the check to pay for it. As time goes along, I foresee many of the, if you will, the dominoes starting to fall throughout the state of Indiana and many of the county jails. Many have asked about the opportunity to house inmates outside of our jail. That window's quickly closing because many of the other county jails are filling up rapidly. As it currently stands, we have 3 in Miami County. What I have been practicing is sending our sentenced individuals from the courts to Miami County and not the pre-sentence. The reason behind that is that with pre-sentence individuals, the opportunity that we have to have more frequent transports to and from court hearings increases with those pre-sentence individuals. And so that's added mileage, wear and tear on our transport vehicles, personnel, and fuel costs. Currently, the state rate for housing out of inmates out of county is $35 per day per individual. There's a huge push toward the legislature for the 2019 session to up that amount to $55 a day. If you're on the receiving end, that's great. If you're paying it out, that's not so great. It's $55 a day. So it's in essence potentially $20 extra per individual that has to be paid toward housing individuals outside of the county. just to share with you in regard to housing inmates outside of the county, recently it was suggested that we move some of our individuals prior to our state jail inspection on September the 13th, which I've yet to receive the 2018 report from the state. But we had made efforts to basically put out a blanket email to all counties asking them to, if they would be willing to hold both sentence and pre-sentence individuals from our county. What ended up actually happening was that Marion County overrode us, came along and said, we have 35 to 40 of our own and we will pay $40 per individual. They outbid us by $5 per individual. And so, and then no other counties responded with the opportunity for us to go outside of the county. Recently, we also made efforts to, again, put that message out or ask other counties if they would hold individuals so that we could start housing some of the individuals having short-term commitments in our facility. And again, we received no response from any county that no one had any room that we could move forward. On the risk liability front, there's always the opportunity there may be an increase in fights. Thank our lucky stars that we haven't had that at this point. But as our numbers increase, I foresee that we may have fights. And unfortunately, that leads back to the risk liability factor. During a recent shakedown in our facility, which a shakedown is when we go through and check, make sure that everybody's in compliance with our jail rules, we came across a letter one of the individuals had written where he had inquired with 4 separate attorneys in regard to the conditions of our jail. It's unknown whether or not he's gotten a response from that attorney. My point to all that is it only takes one spark. Unfortunately, society has changed dramatically in the last 30 years. I don't normally like to go down the dark or cynical road, but unfortunately this is the reality that many counties are facing throughout the United States. And so I'm always open for emails, phone calls, or any questions anyone has. If they've heard rumors, stories, whatever, contact me. I can tell you the real facts. Thank you.
Judge Bass.
I don't have any prepared remarks or anything. It's always been my position, and I think it's the right position, that we have a separated government, and I don't second guess what the legislature or the executive branch does, which is you folks, of course. And so it's sort of in your sound discretion whether or not to build a jail. My opinion is that I trust you to do the right thing, I guess. Now, explanation-wise, and I guess to kind of echo what the sheriff said, I did a little homework on this, and really, he's right. The old rule was that if you're going to be in the jail, you might be in jail pre-trial, and that's folks that haven't been able to post a bond. And we do a pretty good job of getting people out of the jail, frankly. I mean, there's a few in there that are on a high bond, because we had some big meth busts recently, so there's some people in there on a high bond, but we do a good job of getting people over, and if they're not a flight risk or a danger to the community, we just let them out on their promise to appear. That's what most people get. And so under the old rules, there was those folks, and then there were also anybody that got sentenced on a misdemeanor. And under a misdemeanor, the longest time you could have to do would be 6 months. So the most time that you'd have in there would be 6 months. Well, now that they've changed it to where we take the level 6s, then that ups the longest amount of time that you could have to be in the jail to 15 months. So you've gone from 6 months to 15 months. So you've got people, not only more people in there, but people that are in there potentially longer. And as far as number-wise goes, just this year, in 2016, we've had so far 362 misdemeanors. So that's the number of people we would have potentially had in our jail serving a sentence, along with the pretrial people before. Well, now under 1006, that's up to 498. And that extra 138 that we added in there are people that might not be in there just 6 months, but 15 months. So it's all just kind of a parade of horribles that have happened all at once. We do really try to use the jail as a last resort. the majority of criminal offenses in our community are level 6s or down, or misdemeanors. And almost always, those folks start out on probation, suspended sentence, and with drug treatment and rehab and all these other things. And frankly, normally, they can screw up 1 or 2 times. I mean, I guess, hopefully none of them are listening. But they can screw up 1 or 2 times, and we'll give them more rehab or a little bit more intense rehab, or there's house arrest, or we might try work release with some of them. So normally, when the folks get to the jail, they're there because there's just nothing else. And at this point, we're going to have to decide either, are we going to enforce the probation or are we not going to enforce the probation? But even after they get to the jail, if they get a little bit better attitude about things and a little bit of time goes by and their family comes up with some kind of a rehab facility or someplace that they want to go, we'll bring them out for that. We'll send them on to work release. Also, we've got community corrections down in the jail. If they'll get a GED, I'll let them out early. If they'll complete the community corrections rehab program, I'll let them out early. So we really have about as many ways that we can think of at this point to try to keep that population down. I never want to sentence people with an eye to the jail population because I just don't, I'd hate for people to think that committing crime in Carroll County is a little bit easier to commit than anywhere else because their jail's full and they won't do anything to you, So I just try to do the right thing either way. And like I say, my opinion is you all are the legislators. I trust you all do the right thing. Whatever decision you make, we'll work with it. And I know it's a hard decision, by the way. And so that's kind of where things are from the court's perspective.
Joe, did you want to read something from the prosecutor?
Yeah. This is a quote from prosecuting attorney Nick McClellan. He says, I am not going to stop asking for executed sentences just because the jail is full. So we need more room to house the people, not to house more people that commit the crimes that warrant an executed sentence. That's what he provided.
We'll open it up for public comment, and I'd like for you to go to the podium. No, it's hard to get out. Stand up, repeat your name and address, please. Speak clearly, so everyone can hear. But I want to remind you, we're not here to make a plan for building a jail or remodeling a jail. We are here to review the ordinance on how to fund any project that we would do. Whether to do that by property tax or do it by the ordinance we have already passed for income tax. So, whomever would like to start.
That ordinance, for anybody that doesn't know, you gotta read it twice, you gotta pass it twice. So it was voted on the first time as 3-3. Got brought up a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago. Passed 6-1, so if it passes tonight, it's a 0.2% income tax. It will be effective January 1st.
Could we ask for you to speak up a little louder? Some of us don't have as good a hearing as others.
So the ordinance, Clara, is you gotta pass the ordinance twice for this body. We passed it once already. We can vote on it again tonight and pass it a second time. And a 0.2% income tax will be effective January 1st, 2019, if it passes.
Before we speak, I'm going to ask one question, so I need to when it says the 50% on the income tax, is that for everyone paying income tax?
The on your taxable income, your report.
It's residents only,
Residents only.
year-round residents only.
Carroll County, whoever.
So,
He files a Carroll County resident, 0.2%. For illustrative purposes from Umball, here, income of, it was about $100 for $50,000 a year.
$3.85 per pay period on a $50,000 income. On $50,000 of income, if you've got paid twice a week, it's $3.85 per pay period.
So right
Well,
now,
that's every 2 weeks.
for illustrative purposes, a $54,000 income is currently paying $1,055 in income tax to the county. For total income tax. If you pass at 0.2%, it's $102. And also, according to Umball, for our study here, the expenditure rate would also have to be increased to be another $217. But for tonight, the ordinance in front of us tonight is just at 0.2% income tax.
Well,
According to
that's what
Umball.
that's what we're here to discuss, the financial aspect.
Big terms here for the county, what it would do next year, the projected income to bring in would be $743,000-ish in income tax. For a $15 million jail as a reference, the bond payment would be $1.22 million tax. So this tax alone would create enough income to cover just over half of the yearly payment.
If we finance them.
If you financed it, that's not counting that 1.5 we put in the jail fund.
And plus, we've already added the public safety tax this year.
Did that last year, that was 0.09%.
But that's only paying for 911. Okay,
But
that tax only pays for dispatch.
all these income
Oh, I
taxes,
understand, but
all
I
these
understand
income
that,
taxes
but
in here,
yeah.
the maximum of all those combined is 2.5%. So do the 0.2% here, Umball projects to finance this jail, you can be at that max. Plus, back it up by property taxes, plus any extra staff, utilities, anything to run the new facilities comes from property tax.
And do we know what percent
We don't know what building. You know, obviously, you build a bigger building, it's gonna take more heat, more staff, and we're not gonna run it with less people than we got.
do they have?
That's
any-
coming out of property tax out of the general fund.
You need to stand up here.
Well, I don't want to say anything, it's like it all questions.
It's
When I sit here at the beginning, I don't want to use my 2
We,
minutes. on
anybody out there,
questions.
we encourage questions, we'll try to answer them. We might not have the answers, but we got, this is my stack of jail stuff, for years we've been working on it. We have quite a bit of information on it. But like she said, tonight is basically considering that 0.2%, either pass it or not, it's passed once already.
Yeah. Whichever one.
Go ahead.
Okay. I'm Jack Begley, 3354 North, 1150 West, Delphi. I just have a couple of things to say on this. First thing is, it's a situation, I don't know of anybody, including myself, that wants to put up a new jail or remodel, but it's something that anybody looks at, we've got to do something. And the more we wait to start working with the funding, one thing that I don't think I've mentioned, for basically every $1 million that's raised before the jail is started, so with starting in 2019, basically every $1 million you save before you have to do the bond issue, in total cost to the county saves, and somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, somewhere in the neighborhood of 1.6. What that will reduce 1.6 of the total cost. I'm saying that. So for every $1 million you save an extra $600,000 because you're not paying interest on that $1 million over the bond issue. The other thing, the state, for those that don't know, the state legislature enacted this income tax for the counties. One of the unique things about it, or fairly unique, is that every bit of this 0.2% income tax goes to the jail or rehabilitation facility funds. It doesn't get divided up. Other income tax gets divided up between the county, the city, the different bodies, all get to pull a little bit of it. So even if the income tax got taken up all the way to the max amount, which I think we would have 0.19% left after the 0.2, not very much. But that amount, the county only sees what, about 63% of it, if that?
All right.
I'm getting into these numbers. But it's something we've got to do. And it's the adage, you know, you pay me now or you pay me later. And you either pay, you know, start saving for it now so you've got the money, or you're going to pay almost twice as much down the road. Besides waiting to get it started, which is increase the cost, and I think the architects, I think they have mentioned, a lot of the equipment that goes into these are specially companies, and with as much buildings going on, their demand's going up. If their demand goes up, their prices are going to go up. So we have got to get moving, both from the standpoint of saving money and the standpoint of having a federal judge looking at us and saying, you know, it's been 4 years you've been talking about this, you haven't done a thing. I take it that's done. So, thank you.
I'm Scott Ayers, and I guess I'll begin with a statement. I remember 2 sheriffs ago sitting on a committee discussing the potential of what we're going to do with the jail. And that was probably late 90s, I would imagine. So it has been an ongoing issue. I do have a couple of questions. As far as the bond issue, if and when it's ever issued, will it be a general obligation or will it be an income derivative type bond? Does anyone know that answer?
It's an income.
Okay,
It's an
from
income.
a continued tax?
From that continuous stream, yes.
Okay, all right. And I'll also concur with Curtis about, I guess, a question. You said you send some people to work release, and where are you sending them?
We're fortunate in that surrounding counties are most generally willing to take our people on work release. White County, Tippecanoe County Community Corrections has work release. Cass County has work release. I think Clinton does too. Do they have a Clinton? No. No, not at Clinton. Okay. And so somebody did ask me one time, well, why don't we just put everybody on work release? And my response was, well, most of the people, if not all the people that are sort of qualified for that are on it.